Thus did he speak, and they all held their peace throughout the covered cloister, enthralled by the charm of his story, till soon Alcinous began to speak. "Odysseus," said he, "now that you have reached my house, I doubt not you will get home without further misadventure, no matter how much you have suffered in the past. To you others, however, who come here night after night to drink my choicest wine and listen to my bard, I would insist as follows. Our guest has already packed up the clothes, wrought gold and other valuables which you have brought for his acceptance. Let us now, so, present him further, each one of us, with a large tripod and a cauldron." Alcinous went on board, and saw everything so securely stowed under the ship's benches that nothing could break adrift and injure the rowers. Then they went to the house of Alcinous to get dinner, and he sacrificed a bull for them in honour of Zeus, who is the lord of all. They set the steaks to grill and made an excellent dinner, after which the inspired bard Demodocus, who was a favourite with everyone, sang to them. But Odysseus kept on turning his eyes towards the sun, as though to hasten his setting, for he was longing to be on his way. "Make your drink offerings and send me on my way rejoicing, for you have fulfilled my heart's desire by giving me an escort and making me presents, which the sky grant that I may turn to good account. May I find my admirable wife living in peace among friends, and may you, whom I leave behind me, give satisfaction to your wives and children. May the sky vouchsafe you every good grace, and may no evil thing come among your people." Thus did he speak. His hearers, all of them, approved his saying, and agreed that he should have his escort, because he had spoken reasonably. "I now take my leave. Be happy in this house, with your children, your people, and with King Alcinous." As he spoke, he crossed the threshold, and Alcinous sent a man to send him to his ship and to the seashore. Arete also sent some serving women with him, one with a clean shirt and cloak, another to carry his strongbox, and a third with corn and wine. When they got to the waterside, the crew took these things and put them on board, with all the food and drink. But for Odysseus they spread a rug and a linen sheet on deck, that he might sleep soundly in the stern of the ship. Her prow curvetted as it were the neck of a stallion, and a great wave of dark blue water seethed in her wake. She held steadily on her course, and even a falcon, swiftest of all birds, could not have kept pace with her. Thus then she cut her way through the water, carrying one who was as cunning as the gods, but who was now sleeping peacefully, forgetful of all that he had suffered both on the field of battle and by the waves of the weary sea. When the bright star that heralds the approach of dawn began to show, the ship drew near to land. There are mixing bowls within it, and wine jars of stone, and the bees hive there. Moreover, there are great looms of stone on which the nymphs weave their robes of sea purple, very curious to see. And at all times there is water within it. It has 2 entrances, one facing north, by which mortals can go down into the cave, while the other comes from the south, and is more mysterious. Mortals cannot possibly get in by it. It is the way taken by the gods. Into this harbour, then, they took their ship, for they knew the place. She had so much way upon her that she ran half her own length onto the shore. But Poseidon did not forget the threats with which he had already threatened Odysseus, so he took counsel with Zeus. "Father Zeus," said he, "I shall no longer be held in any sort of respect among you gods, if mortals like the Phaeacians, who are my own flesh and blood, show such small regard for me. I said I would let Odysseus get home when he had suffered sufficiently. I did not say that he should never get home at all, for I knew you had already nodded your head about it, and promised that he should do so. It would be monstrous, were they to insult one so old and honoured as you are. As regards mortals, however, if any of them is indulging in arrogance and treating you disrespectfully, it will always rest with yourself to deal with him as you may think proper. So do just as you please. I should have done so at once, replied Poseidon, if I were not anxious to avoid anything that might displease you. Now so, I should like to wreck the Phaeacian ship as it is returning from its escort. This will stop them from escorting people in future. Then he went up to it, turned it into stone, and drove it down with the flat of his hand so as to root it in the ground. After this he went away. The Phaeacians then began talking among themselves, and one would turn towards his neighbour, saying, "Bless my heart, who is it that can have rooted the ship in the sea just as she was getting into port? We could see the whole of her only a moment ago." This was how they talked, but they knew nothing about it. And Alcinous said, "I remember now the old prophecy of my father. Now, so let us all do as I say. In the first place, we must leave off giving people escorts when they come here. And in the next, let us sacrifice 12 picked bulls to Poseidon, that he may have mercy upon us, and not bury our city under the high mountain." When the people heard this, they were afraid and got ready the bulls. Thus did the chiefs and rulers of the Phaeacians pray to King Poseidon, standing round his altar. And at the same time Odysseus woke up once more upon his own soil. He had been so long away that he did not know it again. Are they savage and uncivilized, or hospitable and humane? Where shall I put all this treasure, and which way shall I go? I wish I had stayed over there with the Phaeacians. Or I could have gone to some other great chief who would have been good to me and given me an escort. As it is, I do not know where to put my treasure, and I cannot leave it here for fear somebody else should get hold of it. In good truth, the chiefs and rulers of the Phaeacians have not been dealing fairly by me, and have left me in the wrong country." Then Athena came to him, disguised as a young shepherd, of delicate and princely mien, with a good cloak folded double about her shoulders. She had sandals on her comely feet, and held a javelin in her hand. Odysseus was glad when he saw her, and went straight up to her. "My friend," said he, "you are the first person whom I have met with in this country. I salute you, and beg you to be well disposed towards me. Protect these my goods, and myself too, for I embrace your knees and pray to you as though you were a god. Tell me then, and tell me truly, what land and country is this? Who are its inhabitants?" "It is rugged and not a good driving country, but it is by no means a bad island for what there is of it. It grows any quantity of corn, and also wine, for it is watered both by rain and dew. It breeds cattle also, and goats. All kinds of timber grow here, and there are watering places where the water never runs dry. I killed him because he wanted to rob me of the spoils I had got from Troy, with so much trouble and danger, both on the field of battle and by the waves of the weary sea. He said I had not served his father loyally at Troy as vassal, but had set myself up as an independent ruler. So I lay in wait for him with one of my followers by the roadside, and speared him as he was coming into town from the country. It was a very dark night, and nobody saw us. I was very tired and fell asleep directly, so they took my goods out of the ship and placed them beside me where I was lying upon the sand. Then they sailed away to Sidonia, and I was left here in great distress of mind." Such was his story, but Athena smiled and caressed him with her hand. Then she took the form of a woman, fair, stately, and wise. "He must be indeed a shifty, lying fellow," said she, "who could surpass you in all manner of craft, even though you had a god for your antagonist. Did you not know Zeus's daughter Athena, me, who have been ever with you, who kept watch over you in all your troubles, and who made the Phaeacians take so great a liking to you? And now, again, I am come here to talk things over with you, and help you to hide the treasure I made the Phaeacians give you. I want to tell you about the troubles that await you in your own house. You have got to face them, but tell no one, neither man nor woman, that you have come home again. And now, I beseech you in your father's name, tell me the truth, for I do not believe I am really back in Ithaca. I am in some other country, and you are mocking me and deceiving me in all you have been saying. Tell me then, truly, have I really got back to my own country?" "You are always taking something of that sort in your head," replied Athena, "and that is why I cannot desert you in your afflictions. You are so plausible, shrewd, and shifty. As for my not coming near you, I was never uneasy about you, for I was certain you would get back safely, though you would lose all your men. And I did not wish to quarrel with my uncle Poseidon, who never forgave you for having blinded his son. I will now, however, point out to you the lie of the land, and you will then perhaps believe me. This is the haven of the old merman Phorcys, and here is the olive tree that grows at the head of it. Near it is the cave sacred to the Naiads." Then Odysseus rejoiced at finding himself again in his own land, and kissed the bounteous soil. He lifted up his hands and prayed to the nymphs, saying, "Naiad nymphs, daughters of Zeus, I made sure that I was never again to see you. Now so I greet you with all loving salutations, and I will bring you offerings as in the old days, if Zeus's redoubtable daughter will grant me life, and bring my son to manhood. Take heart, and do not trouble yourself about that," rejoined Athena. "Let us rather set about stowing your things at once in the cave, where they will be quite safe." "Odysseus," said Athena, "noble son of Laertes, think how you can lay hands on these disreputable people who have been lording it in your house these 3 years, courting your wife and making wedding presents to her, while she does nothing but lament your absence, giving hope and sending encouraging messages to every one of them, but meaning the very opposite of all she says." And Odysseus answered, "In good truth, goddess, it seems I should have come to much the same bad end in my own house as Agamemnon did, if you had not given me such timely information. Advise me how I shall best avenge myself." "Then go at once to the swineherd who is in charge of your pigs. He has been always well affected towards you, and is devoted to Penelope and your son. You will find him feeding his pigs near the rock that is called Raven by the fountain Arethusa, where they are fattening on beech mast and spring water after their manner. Stay with him and find out how things are going, while I proceed to Sparta and see your son, who is with Menelaus at Lacedaemon, where he has gone to try and find out whether you are still alive." "But why," said Odysseus, "did you not tell him? For you knew all about it." "He is in no sort of difficulty, but is staying quite comfortably with Menelaus, and is surrounded with abundance of every kind. The suitors have put out to sea and are lying in wait for him, for they mean to kill him before he can get home. I do not much think they will succeed, but rather that some of those who are now eating up your estate will first find a grave themselves." As she spoke, Athena touched him with her wand and covered him with wrinkles, took away all his yellow hair, and withered the flesh over his whole body. She bleared his eyes, which were naturally very fine ones. Odysseus now left the haven, and took the rough track up through the wooded country, and over the crest of the mountain till he reached the place where Athena had said that he would find the swineherd, who was the most thrifty servant he had. He found him sitting in front of his hut, which was by the yards that he had built on a site which could be seen from far. He had made them spacious and fair to see, with a free run for the pigs all round them. There were 360 boar pigs, and the herdsman's 4 hounds, which were as fierce as wolves, slept always with them. The swineherd was at that moment cutting out a pair of sandals from a good stout ox hide. 3 of his men were out herding the pigs in one place or another, and he had sent the 4th to town with a boar that he had been forced to send the suitors, that they might sacrifice it and have their fill of food. I have to attend swine for other people to eat, while he, if he yet lives to see the light of day, is starving in some distant land. But come inside, and when you have had your fill of bread and wine, tell me where you come from, and all about your misfortunes." On this the swineherd led the way into the hut, and told him sit down. He strewed a good thick bed of rushes upon the floor, and on the top of this he threw the shaggy chamois skin, a great thick one, on which he used to sleep by night. "You must take what you can get, and be thankful, for servants live in fear when they have young lords for their masters. And this is my misfortune now, for Sky has hindered the return of him who would have been always good to me, and given me something of my own, a house, a piece of land, a good-looking wife, and all else that a generous master allows a servant who has worked hard for him, and whose labour the gods have prospered, as they have mine in the situation which I hold." The swineherd then mixed wine in a bowl of ivy wood, and taking a seat opposite Odysseus, told him to begin. "Fall to, stranger," said he, "on a dish of servant's pork. The fat pigs have to go to the suitors, who eat them up without shame or scruple. But the blessed gods love not such shameful doings, and respect those who do what is lawful and right. Even the fierce freebooters who go raiding on other people's land, and Zeus gives them their spoil, even they, when they have filled their ships and got home again, live conscience-stricken and look fearfully for judgment. But some god seems to have told these people that Odysseus is dead and gone. There are 12 herds of cattle upon the mainland, and as many flocks of sheep. There are also 12 droves of pigs, while his own men and hired strangers feed him 12 widely spreading herds of goats. Here in Ithaca, he runs even large flocks of goats on the far end of the island, and they are in the charge of excellent goat herds. Each one of these sends the suitors the best goat in the flock every day. Zeus and the other gods know, but I may be able to give you news of him, for I have travelled much." Eumaeus answered, "Old man, no traveller who comes here with news will get Odysseus's wife and son to believe his story. Even so, tramps in want of a lodging keep coming with their mouths full of lies and not a word of truth. Everyone who finds his way to Ithaca goes to my mistress and tells her falsehoods, and then she takes them in, makes much of them, and asks them all manner of questions, crying all the time as women will when they have lost their husbands. I do not so much care, however, about my parents now, though I should dearly like to see them again in my own country. It is the loss of Odysseus that grieves me most. I cannot speak of him without reverence, though he is here no longer, for he was very fond of me, and took such care of me that wherever he may be, I shall always honour his memory. My friend, replied Odysseus, you are very positive and very hard of belief about your master's coming home again. Even so, I will not merely say, but will swear that he is coming. Odysseus will return in this selfsame year. With the end of this moon and the beginning of the next, he will be here to do vengeance on all those who are ill-treating his wife and son. To this you answered, O swineherd Eumaeus, Old man, you will neither get paid for bringing good news, nor will Odysseus ever come home. Drink your wine in peace, and let us talk about something else. Do not keep on reminding me of all this. It always pains me when anyone speaks about my honoured master. As for your oath, we will let it alone. But I only wish he may come, as do Penelope, his old father Laertes, and his son Telemachus. But let us say no more about him, and leave him to be taken, or else to escape if the son of Kronos holds his hand over him to protect him. And now, old man, tell me your own story. Tell me also, for I want to know, who you are and where you come from. Tell me of your town and parents, what kind of ship you came in, how crew brought you to Ithaca, and from what country they profess to come, for you cannot have reached this island by land. And Odysseus answered, I will tell you all about it. I am by birth a Cretan. My father was a well-to-do man, who had many sons born in marriage, whereas I was the son of a slave whom he had purchased for a concubine. Even so, my father, Castor, son of Hylax, whose lineage I claim, and who was held in the highest honour among the Cretans for his wealth, prosperity, and the valour of his sons, put me on the same level with my brothers who had been born in wedlock. When, however, death took him to the house of Hades, his sons divided his estate and cast lots for their shares. But to me, they gave a holding and little else. My delight was in ships, fighting, javelins and arrows, things that most men shudder to think of. But one man likes one thing and another another, and this was what I was most naturally inclined to. Before the Greeks went to Troy, 9 times was I in command of men and ships on foreign service, and I amassed much wealth. I had my pick of the spoil in the first instance, and much more was allotted to me later on. For 6 days I and my men made feast, and I found them many victims both for sacrifice to the gods and for themselves. But on the 7th day, we went on board and set sail from Crete, with a fair north wind behind us, though we were going down a river. Nothing went ill with any of our ships, and we had no sickness on board, but sat where we were and let the ships go as the wind and steersman took them. On the 5th day we reached the river Aegyptus. There I stationed my ships in the river, bidding my men stay by them and keep guard over them, while I sent out scouts to reconnoitre from every point of vantage. The Egyptians killed many of us, and took the rest alive to do forced labour for them. Zeus, however, put it in my mind to do thus, and I wish I had died then and there in Egypt instead, for there was much sorrow in store for me. I took off my helmet and shield, and dropped my spear from my hand. Then I went straight up to the king's chariot, clasped his knees and kissed them, and then he spared my life, told me to get into his chariot, and took me weeping to his own home. I stayed there for a whole 12 months. But at the end of that time, when months and days had gone by, till the same season had come round again, he set me on board a ship bound for Libya, on a pretence that I was to take a cargo along with him to that place, but really that he might sell me as a slave and take the money I fetched. I suspected his intention, but went on board with him, for I could not help it. The ship ran before a fresh north wind till we had reached the sea that lies between Crete and Libya. Zeus, however, sent the ship's mast within my reach, which saved my life, for I clung to it and drifted before the fury of the gale. 9 days did I drift, but in the darkness of the 10th night, a great wave bore me on to the Thesprotian coast. There Phidon, king of the Thesprotians, entertained me hospitably, without charging me anything at all, for his son found me when I was nearly dead with cold and fatigue, and then he raised me by the hand, took me to his father's house, and gave me clothes to wear. Moreover, the king swore in my presence, making drink offerings in his own house as he did so, that the ship was by the waterside, and the crew found, that should take him to his own country. He sent me off, however, before Odysseus returned, for there happened to be a Thesprotian ship sailing for the wheat-growing island of Dulichium, and he told those in charge of her to be sure and take me safely to King Acastus. These men hatched a plot against me that would have reduced me to the very extreme of misery. For when the ship had got some way out from land, they resolved on selling me as a slave. They were very angry at my having escaped, and went searching about for me, till at last they thought it was no further use, and went back to their ship. The gods, having hidden me thus easily, then took me to a good man's door, for it seems that I am not to die yet a while. To this you answered, O swineherd Eumaeus, "Poor unhappy stranger, I have found the story of your misfortunes extremely interesting, but that part about Odysseus is not right, and you will never get me to believe it. Why should a man like you go about telling lies in this way? I know all about the return of my master." Then they all sit round and ask questions, both those who grieve over the king's absence and those who rejoice at it because they can eat up his property without paying for it. For my own part, I have never cared about asking anyone else since the time when I was taken in by an Aetolian, who had killed a man and come a long way till at last he reached my station, and I was very kind to him. He said he had seen Odysseus with Idomeneus among the Cretans, refitting his ships which had been damaged in a gale. He said Odysseus would return in the following summer or autumn with his men, and that he would bring back much wealth. "If your master comes home, give me a cloak and shirt of good wear, and send me to Dulichium where I want to go. But if he does not come, as I say he will, set your men on to me, and tell them to throw me from over their precipice as a warning to tramps not to go about the country telling lies." "And a pretty figure I should cut then," replied Eumaeus, "both now and hereafter, if I were to kill you after receiving you into my hut and showing you hospitality. I should have to say my prayers in good earnest if I did. We have had trouble enough this long time feeding pigs, while others reap the fruit of our labour." On this he began chopping firewood, while the others brought in a fine, fat 5-year-old boar pig and set it at the altar. Eumaeus did not forget the gods, for he was a man of good principles. So the first thing he did was to cut bristles from the pig's face and throw them into the fire, praying to all the gods as he did so that Odysseus might return home again. Then he clubbed the pig with a billet of oak, which he had kept back when he was chopping the firewood, and stunned it, while the others slaughtered and singed it. The swineherd, who was a most equitable man, then stood up to give everyone his share. He made 7 portions. One of these he set apart for Hermes, the son of Maia, and the nymphs, praying to them as he did so. The others he dealt out to the men, man by man. He gave Odysseus some slices cut lengthways down the loin, as a mark of especial honour, and Odysseus was much pleased. "I hope, Eumaeus," said he, "that Zeus will be as well disposed towards you as I am, for the respect you are showing to an outcast like myself." To this you answered, O swineherd Eumaeus, "Eat, my good fellow, and enjoy your supper, such as it is." They then laid their hands upon the food set before them, and when they had had enough to eat and drink, Mythology took away what was left of the bread, and they all went to bed after having made a hearty supper. Now the night came on stormy and very dark, for there was no moon. It poured without ceasing, and the wind blew strong from the west, which is a wet quarter. So Odysseus thought he would see whether Eumaeus, in the excellent care he took of him, would take off his own cloak and give it him, or make one of his men give him one. "Listen to me," said he, "Eumaeus and the rest of you." Menelaus and Odysseus were the leaders, but I was in command also, for the other 2 would have it so. When we had come up to the wall of the city, we crouched down beneath our armour, and lay there under cover of the reeds and thick brushwood that grew about the swamp. It came on to freeze, with a north wind blowing. The snow fell small and fine like hoarfrost, and our shields were coated thick with rime. "My friends," said he, "I have had a dream from the sky in my sleep. We are a long way from the ships. I wish someone would go down and tell Agamemnon to send us up more men at once." On this, Thoas, son of Andreamon, threw off his cloak and set out running to the ships. And then I took the cloak, and lay in it comfortably enough till morning. Would that I were still young and strong as I was in those days, for then some one of you swineherds would give me a cloak both out of goodwill and for the respect due to a brave soldier. When Odysseus' son comes home again, he will give you both cloak and shirt, and send you wherever you may want to go. With this he got up and made a bed for Odysseus, by throwing some goatskins and sheepskins on the ground in front of the fire. Here Odysseus lay down, and Eumaeus covered him over with a great heavy cloak that he kept for a change, in case of extraordinarily bad weather. Thus did Odysseus sleep, and the young men slept beside him. But the swineherd did not like sleeping away from his pigs, so he got ready to go outside, and Odysseus was glad to see that he looked after his property during his master's absence. But Athena went to the fair city of Lacedaemon to tell Odysseus' son that he was to return at once. She found him and Pisistratus sleeping in the forecourt of Menelaus' house. Pisistratus was fast asleep, but Telemachus could get no rest all night for thinking of his unhappy father. So Athena went close up to him and said, "Telemachus, you should not remain so far away from home any longer, nor leave your property with such dangerous people in your house. They will eat up everything you have among them, and you will have been on a fool's errand. Ask Menelaus to send you home at once, if you wish to find your excellent mother still there when you get back. Go home so, and put everything in charge of the most respectable woman-servant that you have, until it shall please the sky to send you a wife of your own. Let me tell you also of another matter which you had better attend to. The chief men among the suitors are lying in wait for you in the strait between Ithaca and Samos, and they mean to kill you before you can reach home. I do not much think they will succeed. It is more likely that some of those who are now eating up your property will find a grave themselves. Sail night and day, and keep your ship well away from the islands. As soon as you get to Ithaca, send your ship and men onto the town, but yourself go straight to the swineherd, who has charge of your pigs. He is well disposed towards you. Stay with him, for the night, and then send him to Penelope to tell her that you have got back safe from Pylos. Then she went back to Olympus. But Telemachus stirred Pisistratus with his heel to rouse him, and said, "Wake up, Pisistratus, and yoke the horses to the chariot, for we must set off home." But Pisistratus said, "No matter what hurry we are in, we cannot drive in the dark. It will be morning soon. I do not like to see a host either too fond of his guest or too rude to him. Moderation is best in all things, and not letting a man go when he wants to do so is as bad as telling him to go if he would like to stay. One should treat a guest well as long as he is in the house, and speed him when he wants to leave it. Wait, then, till I can get your beautiful presents into your chariot, until you have yourself seen them. I will tell the women to prepare a sufficient dinner for you, of what there may be in the house. No one will send us away empty-handed. Everyone will give us something: a bronze tripod, a couple of mules, or a gold cup." "Menelaus," replied Telemachus, "I want to go home at once, for when I came away I left my property without protection, and fear that while looking for my father I shall come to ruin myself, or find that something valuable has been stolen during my absence." When Menelaus heard this, he immediately told his wife and servants to prepare a sufficient dinner from what there might be in the house. At this moment, Eumaeus joined him, for he lived close by and had just got up. "I will now present you with the finest and most precious piece of plate in all my house. It is a mixing bowl of pure silver, except the rim, which is inlaid with gold, and it is the work of Hephaestus. Phaedamus, king of the Sidonians, made me a present of it in the course of a visit that I paid him while I was on my return home. I should like to give it to you." With these words he placed the double cup in the hands of Telemachus, while Megapenthes brought the beautiful mixing bowl and set it before him. Hard by stood lovely Helen, with the robe ready in her hand. "Till then, get your dear mother to keep it for you. Thus may you go back rejoicing to your own country and to your home." So saying, she gave the robe over to him, and he received it gladly. Then Pisistratus put the presents into the chariot, and admired them all as he did so. Soon Menelaus took Telemachus and Pisistratus into the house, and they both of them sat down to table. A servant woman brought them water in a beautiful golden jug, and poured it into a silver basin for them to wash their hands, and she drew a clean table beside them. An upper servant brought them bread, and offered them many food set before them of what there was in the house. He stood in front of the horses and pledged them, saying, "Farewell to both of you. See that you tell Nestor how I have treated you, for he was as kind to me as any father could be, while we Greeks were fighting before Troy." "We will be sure, sir," answered Telemachus, "to tell him everything as soon as we see him. I wish I were as certain of finding Odysseus returned when I get back to Ithaca, that I might tell him of the very great kindness you have shown me, and of the many beautiful presents I am taking with me." As he was thus speaking, a bird flew on his right hand. When they saw it, they were glad, and their hearts took comfort within them. And then Pisistratus said, "Tell me, Menelaus, Has the sky sent this omen for us, or for you? Menelaus was thinking what would be the most proper answer for him to make, but Helen was too quick for him and said, I will read this matter as Sky has put it in my heart, and as I doubt not that it will come to pass. The eagle came from the mountain where it was bred and has its nest, and in like manner Odysseus, after having travelled far and suffered much, will return to take his revenge. Then they reached Phere, where Diocles lived, who was son of Ortilochus, the son of Alpheus. There they passed the night, and were treated hospitably. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared, they again yoked their horses and their places in the chariot. They drove out through the inner gateway and under the echoing gatehouse of the outer court. Then Pisistratus lashed his horses on, and they flew forward, nothing loath. Before long they came to Pylos, and then Telemachus said, Pisistratus, I hope you will promise to do what I am going to ask you. You know our fathers were old friends before us. Moreover, we are both of an age, and this journey has brought us together still more closely. Then he said, Go on board at once, and tell your men to do so also, before I can reach home to tell my father. I know how obstinate he is, and am sure he will not let you go. He will come down here to fetch you, and he will not go back without you, but he will be very angry. With this, he drove his goodly steeds back to the city of the Pylians, and soon reached his home. But Telemachus called the men together and gave his orders. Now, my men, said he, get everything in order on board the ship, and let us set out home. Thus did he speak, and they went on board even as he had said. Neleus seized his goods and held them for a whole year, during which he was a close prisoner in the house of King Phylacus, and in much distress of mind, both on account of the daughter of Neleus, and because he was haunted by a great sorrow that dread Erinnys had laid upon him. In the end, however, he escaped with his life, drove the cattle from Phylus to Pylos, avenged the wrong that had been done him, and gave the daughter of Neleus to his brother. Then he left the country and went to Argos, where it was ordained that he should reign over much people. There he married, established himself, and had 2 famous sons, Antiphates and Mantius. Aurora, throned in gold, carried off Clytus for his beauty's sake, that he might dwell among the immortals. But Apollo made Polyphides the greatest seer in the whole world, now that Amphiaraus was dead. He quarrelled with his father and went to live in Hyperesia, where he remained and prophesied for all men. His son, Theoclymenus, it was who now came up to Telemachus as he was making drink offerings and praying in his ship. Friend, said he, now that I find you sacrificing in this place, I beseech you by your sacrifices themselves and by the God to whom you make them. I ask you also by your own head and by those of your followers, tell me the truth, and nothing but the truth. He has many brothers and kinsmen in Argos, and they have great power among the Greeks. I am flying to escape death at their hands, and am thus doomed to be a wanderer on the face of the earth. I am your suppliant. Take me so on board your ship that they may not kill me, for I know they are in pursuit. I will not refuse you, replied Telemachus, if you wish to join us. Come so, and in Ithaca we will treat you hospitably according to what we have. On this he received Theoclymenus' spear and laid it down on the deck of the ship. He went on board and sat in the stern, bidding Theoclymenus sit beside him. Athena sent them a fair wind that blew fresh and strong to take the ship on her course as fast as possible. Thus then they passed by Cruni and Chalcis. Soon the sun set, and darkness was over all the land. The vessel made a quick passage to Pheae, and from there on to Elis, where the Epeans rule. Telemachus then headed her for the flying islands, wondering within himself whether he should escape death or should be taken prisoner. Meanwhile, Odysseus and the swineherd were eating their supper in the hut, and the men supped with them. I will go the round of the city begging as I needs must, to see if anyone will give me a drink and a piece of bread. I should like also to go to the house of Odysseus and bring news of her husband to Queen Penelope. I could then go about among the suitors and see if out of all their abundance they will give me a dinner. I should soon make them an excellent servant in all sorts of ways. Listen and believe when I tell you that by the blessing of Hermes, who gives grace and good name to the works of all men, there is no one living who would make a more handy servant than I should. If you go near the suitors, you will be undone to a certainty. For their pride and arrogance reach the very sky. They would never think of taking a man like you for a servant. Their servants are all young men, well dressed, wearing good cloaks and shirts, with well-looking faces and their hair always tidy. The tables are kept quite clean and are loaded with bread, food and wine. Stay where you are then. You are not in anybody's way. Are they still living? Or are they already dead and in the house of Hades? I will tell you all about them, replied Eumaeus. Laertes is still living, and prays the sky to let him depart peacefully in his own house, for he is terribly distressed about the absence of his son, and also about the death of his wife, which grieved him greatly, and aged him more than anything else did. She came to an unhappy end through sorrow for her son. May no friend or neighbor who has dealt kindly by me come to such an end as she did. As for me, my mistress gave me a good shirt and cloak, with a pair of sandals for my feet, and sent me off into the country. But she was just as fond of me as ever. This is all over now. Still, it has pleased the sky to prosper my work in the situation which I now hold. I have enough to eat and drink, and can find something for any respectable stranger who comes here. But there is no getting a kind word or deed out of my mistress, for the house has fallen into the hands of wicked people. Servants want sometimes to see their mistress and have a talk with her. Tell me, and tell me truly, was the city in which your father and mother lived sacked and pillaged? Or did some enemies carry you off when you were alone tending sheep or cattle, ship you off here, and sell you for whatever your master gave them? Stranger, replied Eumaeus, as regards your question, sit still, make yourself comfortable, drink your wine and listen to me. The nights are now at their longest. There is plenty of time both for sleeping and sitting up talking together. You ought not to go to bed till bedtime. Too much sleep is as bad as too little. If any one of the others wishes to go to bed, let him leave us and do so. It is not very thickly peopled, but the soil is good, with much pasture fit for cattle and sheep, and it abounds with wine and wheat. Dearth never comes there, nor are the people plagued by any sickness. But when they grow old, Apollo comes with Artemis and kills them with his painless shafts. It contains 2 communities, and the whole country is divided between these 2. My father, Theseus, son of Ormenus, a man comparable to the gods, reigned over both. Now to this place there came some cunning traders from Phoenicia, for the Phoenicians are great mariners, in a ship which they had freighted with gewgaws of all kinds. One day, As I was coming into the town from the country, some Taphian pirates seized me and took me here, over the sea, where they sold me to the man who owns this house, and he gave them their price for me. The man who had seduced her then said, "Would you like to come along with us to see the house of your parents and your parents themselves?" He would put me in prison, and would have all of you murdered. Keep your own counsel so. Buy your merchandise as fast as you can, and send me word when you have done loading. I will bring as much gold as I can lay my hands on, and there is something else also that I can do towards paying my fare. I am nurse to the son of the good man of the house, a funny little fellow, just able to run about. I will carry him off in your ship, and you will get a great deal of money for him if you take him and sell him in foreign parts. On this she went back to the house. In the forepart of the house she saw the tables set with the cups of guests who had been feasting with my father, as being in attendance on him. These were now all gone to a meeting of the public assembly. So she snatched up 3 cups and carried them off in the bosom of her dress, while I followed her, for I knew no better. The sun was now set, and darkness was over all the land, so we hurried on as fast as we could, till we reached the harbour, where the Phoenician ship was lying. When they had got on board, they sailed their ways over the sea, taking us with them, and Zeus sent then a fair wind. Soon the winds and waves took the ship to Ithaca, where Laertes gave sundry of his chattels for me, and thus it was that ever I came to set eyes upon this country. Odysseus answered, "Eumaeus, I have heard the story of your misfortunes with the most lively interest and pity. But Zeus has given you good as well as evil, for in spite of everything you have a good master, who sees that you always have enough to eat and drink, and you lead a good life, whereas I am still going about begging my way from city to city." Thus did they converse, and they had only a very little time left for sleep, for it was soon daybreak. As soon as they had had enough to eat and drink, Telemachus said, "Take the ship onto the town, but leave me here, for I want to look after the herdsman on one of my farms. In the evening, when I have seen all I want, I will come down to the city, and tomorrow morning in return for your trouble, I will give you all a good dinner with food and wine." Then Theoclymenus said, "And what, my dear young friend, is to become of me?" "He is much the best man and the most persistent wooer of all those who are paying court to my mother and trying to take Odysseus's place. Zeus, however, in the sky alone knows whether or no they will come to a bad end before the marriage takes place." As he was speaking, a bird flew by upon his right hand, a hawk, Apollo's messenger. It held a dove in its talons, and the feathers, as it tore them off, fell to the ground midway between Telemachus and the ship. On this, Theoclymenus called him apart and caught him by the hand. "Telemachus," said he, "that bird did not fly on your right hand without having been sent there by some god. If it does, I will show you so much goodwill and give you so many presents that all who meet you will congratulate you." Then he said to his friend Piraeus, "Piraeus, son of Clytius, you have throughout shown yourself the most willing to serve me of all those who have accompanied me to Pylos. I wish you would take this stranger to your own house and entertain him hospitably till I can come for him." And Piraeus answered, "Telemachus, you may stay away as long as you please, but I will look after him for you, and he shall find no lack of hospitality." As he spoke, he went on board, and told the others to do so also, and loose the hawsers, So they took their places in the ship. Meanwhile, Odysseus and the swineherd had lit a fire in the hut, and were getting breakfast ready at daybreak, for they had sent the men out with the pigs. When Telemachus came up, the dogs did not bark, but fawned upon him. So Odysseus, hearing the sound of feet, and noticing that the dogs did not bark, said to Eumaeus, "Eumaeus, I hear footsteps. I suppose one of your men or someone of your acquaintance is coming here, for the dogs are fawning upon him and not barking." The words were hardly out of his mouth before his son stood at the door. He embraced him, kissed him all over as though he had come back from the dead, and spoke fondly to him, saying, "So you are come, Telemachus, light of my eyes that you are. When I heard you had gone to Pylos, I made sure I was never going to see you any more. Come in, my dear child, and sit down, that I may have a good look at you now you are home again. It is not very often you come into the country to see us herdsmen. You stick pretty close to the town generally." Odysseus rose from his seat to give him place as he entered, but Telemachus checked him. "Sit down, stranger," said he. "I can easily find another seat, and there is one here who will lay it for me." Odysseus went back to his own place, and Eumaeus strewed some green brushwood on the floor and threw a sheepskin on top of it for Telemachus to sit upon. Then the swineherd brought them platters of cold food, the remains from what they had eaten the day before, and he filled the bread baskets with bread as fast as he could. He mixed wine also in bowls of ivywood, and took his seat facing Odysseus. "He says he is a Cretan, and that he has been a great traveller. At this moment he is running away from a Thesprotian ship, and has taken refuge at my station. So I will put him into your hands. Do whatever you like with him, only remember that he is your suppliant." "I am very much distressed," said Telemachus, "by what you have just told me. How can I take this stranger into my house? I am as yet young, and am not strong enough to hold my own if any man attacks me. Or if you like, you can keep him here at the station, and I will send him clothes and food, that he may be no burden on you and on your men. But I will not have him go near the suitors, for they are very arrogant, and are sure to ill-treat him in a way that would greatly grieve me. No matter how valiant a man may be, he can do nothing against numbers, for they will be too strong for him." Then Odysseus said, "Sir, it is right that I should say something myself. I am much shocked about what you have said about the arrogant way in which the suitors are behaving, in despite of such a man as you are. I wish I were as young as you are, and in my present mind. If I were son to Odysseus, or indeed Odysseus himself, I would rather someone came and cut my head off. But I would go to the house and be the bane of every one of these men. If they were too many for me, I being single-handed, I would rather die fighting in my own house than see such disgraceful sights day after day, strangers grossly maltreated, and men dragging the women servants about the house in an unseemly way, wine drawn recklessly, and bread wasted all to no purpose, for an end that shall never be accomplished." And Telemachus answered, "I will tell you truly everything. I am myself the only son of Odysseus, who left me behind him when he went away, so that I have never been of any use to him. From here it comes that my house is in the hands of numberless marauders. For the chiefs from all the neighbouring islands, Dulichium, Same, Zacynthus, as also all the principal men of Ithaca itself, are eating up my house under the pretext of paying court to my mother, who will neither say point blank that she will not marry, nor yet bring matters to an end. So they are making havoc of my estate, and before long will do so with myself into the bargain. The issue, however, rests with the sky. He used to superintend the work on his farm, in spite of his bitter sorrow about Odysseus. And he would eat and drink at will, along with his servants. But they tell me that from the day on which you set out for Pylos, he has neither eaten nor drunk as he ought to do, nor does he look after his farm, but sits weeping and wasting the flesh from off his bones. More's the pity, answered Telemachus. I am sorry for him, but we must leave him to himself just now. If people could have everything their own way, the first thing I should choose would be the return of my father. But go and give your message. She stood against the side of the entry and revealed herself to Odysseus. But Telemachus could not see her, and knew not that she was there. For the gods do not let themselves be seen by everybody. Odysseus saw her, and so did the dogs, for they did not bark, but went scared and whining off to the other side of the yards. She nodded her head, and motioned to Odysseus with her eyebrows, and then he left the hut, and stood before her outside the main wall of the yards. Then she went away, and Odysseus came back inside the hut. His son was astounded when he saw him, and turned his eyes away for fear he might be looking upon a god. "Stranger," said he, "how suddenly you have changed from what you were a moment or two ago. You are dressed differently, and your colour is not the same. Are you some one or other of the gods that live in the sky? If so, be propitious to me till I can make you due sacrifice and offerings of wrought gold. Have mercy upon me." And Odysseus said, "I am no god. Why should you take me for one? A second ago you were old and all in rags, and now you are like some god come down from the sky." Odysseus answered, "Telemachus, you ought not to be so immeasurably astonished at my being really here. There is no other Odysseus who will come hereafter. Such as I am, it is I, who after long wandering and much hardship have got home in the 20th year to my own country. What you wonder at is the work of the redoubtable goddess Athena, who does with me whatever she will, for she can do what she pleases. At one moment she makes me like a beggar, and the next I am a young man with good clothes on my back." They were both so much moved that they cried aloud like eagles or vultures with crooked talons that have been robbed of their half-fledged young by peasants. Thus piteously did they weep, and the sun would have gone down upon their mourning if Telemachus had not suddenly said, "In what ship, my dear father, did your crew bring you to Ithaca? From what people did they declare themselves to be? For you cannot have come by land." "I will tell you the truth, my son," replied Odysseus. "It was the Phaeacians who brought me here. They are great sailors, and are in the habit of giving escorts to anyone who reaches their coasts. I can then turn the matter over in my mind, and see whether we too can fight the whole body of them ourselves, or whether we must find others to help us." To this, Telemachus answered, "Father, I have always heard of your renown both in the field and in council, but the task you talk of is a very great one. I am awed at the mere thought of it. 2 men cannot stand against many and brave ones. There are not 10 suitors only, nor twice 10, but 10 many times over. You shall learn their number at once. There are 52 chosen youths from Dulichium, and they have 6 servants. From Same there are 24. See whether you cannot think of someone who would be willing to come and help us." "Listen to me," replied Odysseus, "and think whether Athena and her father Zeus may seem sufficient, or whether I am to try and find someone else as well. "Those whom you have named," answered Telemachus, "are a couple of good allies, for though they dwell high up among the clouds, they have power over both gods and men. These two," continued Odysseus, "will not keep long out of the fray when the suitors and we join fight in my house. Now, so, return home early tomorrow morning, and go about among the suitors as before. Make some excuse when the suitors ask you why you are removing it. Say that you have taken it to be out of the way of the smoke, because it is no longer what it was when Odysseus went away, but has become soiled and begrimed with soot. Add to this, more particularly, that you are afraid Zeus may set them on to quarrel over their wine, and that they may do each other some harm, which may disgrace both banquet and wooing. For the sight of arms sometimes tempts people to use them. But leave a sword and a spear apiece for yourself and me, and a couple of ox-hide shields, so that we can snatch them up at any moment. Let you and me exploit the women alone, and let us also make trial of some other of the men-servants, to see who is on our side, and whose hand is against us." "Father," replied Telemachus, "you will come to know me after a while, and when you do, you will find that I can keep your counsel. I do not think, however, the plan you propose will turn out well for either of us. Think it over. It will take us a long time to go the round of the farms and exploit the men, and all the time the suitors will be wasting your estate with impunity and without compunction." They drew the ship onto the land. Their servants came and took their armour from them, and they left all the presents at the house of Clytius. Then they sent a servant to tell Penelope that Telemachus had gone into the country, but had sent the ship to the town to prevent her from being alarmed and made unhappy. This servant and Eumaeus happened to meet when they were both on the same errand of going to tell Penelope. When they reached the house, the servant stood up and said to the queen in the presence of the waiting women, "Your son, madam, is now returned from Pylos." Eurymachus, son of Polybus, was the first to speak. "My friends," said he, "this voyage of Telemachus's is a very serious matter. We had made sure that it would come to nothing. Now, however, let us draw a ship into the water and get a crew together to send after the others and tell them to come back as fast as they can." He had hardly done speaking when Amphinomus turned in his place and saw the ship inside the harbour, with the crew lowering her sails and putting by their oars. So he laughed and said to the others, "We need not send them any message, for they are here." "What a day," said he. "See how the gods have saved this man from destruction. We kept a succession of scouts upon the headlands all day long, and when the sun was down, we never went on shore to sleep, but waited in the ship all night till morning in the hope of capturing and killing him. But some god has conveyed him home in spite of us. Let us consider how we can make an end of him. He must not escape us. Our affair is never likely to come off while he is alive, for he is very shrewd, and public feeling is by no means all on our side. We must make haste before he can call the Greeks in assembly. Let us try and lay hold of him, either on his farm, away from the town, or on the road here. Then we can divide up his property amongst us, and let his mother and the man who marries her have the house. If this does not please you, and you wish Telemachus to live on and hold his father's property, then we must not gather here and eat up his goods in this way, but must make our offers to Penelope, each from his own house, and she can marry the man who will give the most for her, and whose lot it is to win her." They all held their peace until Amphinomus rose to speak. It is a heinous thing to kill one who is of noble blood. Let us first take counsel of the gods, and if the oracles of Zeus advise it, I will both help to kill him myself and will urge everyone else to do so. But if they dissuade us, I would have you hold your hands." Thus did he speak, and his words pleased them well. So they rose at once and went to the house of Odysseus, where they took their accustomed seats. Then Penelope resolved that she would show herself to the suitors. She knew of the plot against Telemachus, for the servant Medon had overheard their counsels and had told her, "It is not right for you to plot thus against one another. Do you not remember how your father fled to this house in fear of the people, who were enraged against him for having gone with some Taphian pirates and plundered the Thesprotians who were at peace with us? They wanted to tear him in pieces and eat up everything he had. But Odysseus stayed their hands, although they were infuriated. And now you devour his property without paying for it, and break my heart by wooing his wife and trying to kill his son. So Telemachus is much the dearest friend I have, and has nothing to fear from the hands of us suitors. Of course, if death comes to him from the gods, he cannot escape it." He said this to quiet her, but in reality he was plotting against Telemachus. Then Penelope went upstairs again and mourned her husband till Athena shed sleep over her eyes. In the evening, Eumaeus got back to Odysseus and his son, who had just sacrificed a young pig of a year old and were helping one another to get supper ready. "Have the suitors returned, or are they still waiting over there to take me on my way home?" "I did not think of asking about that," replied Eumaeus. "When I was in the town, I thought I would give my message and come back as soon as I could. I met a man sent by those who had gone with you to Pylos, and he was the first to tell the news to your mother. But I can say what I saw with my own eyes. I had just got on to the crest of the hill of Hermes above the town, when I saw a ship coming into harbour with a number of men in her.